without further ado, I will introduce...
Yeah, please.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Tom Andronis is a communications specialist, content producer and journalist with extensive storytelling experience, both in the media and on behalf of businesses. Prior to starting the Content Engine, a communications and content production business that helps other businesses and brands to tell their stories, Tom was the Strategic Communications Manager for the Leader of the Opposition in Victoria, and before that spent a decade as a radio producer and journalist at Australia's leading talkback radio show 3AW, Melbourne. Please welcome Tom.
Every year I ask you not to mention the Leader of the Opposition.
Sorry.
Did he get in?
I think political oblivion is probably a better way of describing it. There we are. Cool. Hi everyone. Today we're talking about strategic storytelling. So we've spent a lot of time in this room over the last few months talking about things like purpose and understanding the stories behind our businesses. Living those, understanding them, communicating them to our people. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that communication process and talk about what we call strategic storytelling. So this is just the plan of attack. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit the key elements of a well-told strategic story from our perspective. Some examples of some work that we've done to assist our own clients to tell their stories. Then we're going to get a little bit interactive and we're going to use BBP as an example. I'm going to do a highly abridged version of our 90-minute workshop in about 4 minutes with Robert, and then we're actually going to do a live demo of some of the sorts of storytelling that we're talking about. So, first, if the thing works, let me introduce our team. So, first that's me. Standing in a field of opium poppies in Afghanistan with a heavily armed member of the Australian Defence Forces. That was about 10 years ago. I was very fortunate to be embedded with the ADF to broadcast what was supposed to be the last Anzac Day in Tarin Kowt from Afghanistan. I had about 8 more Anzac Days after that, so that didn't go to plan. But on that particular day, we'd been taken on a trip outside the wire to inspect a road that the Australian forces had been building. Now, a sealed road in that part of the world means freedom of movement, because an unsealed road means you can put a bomb in it and you can blow people up. So people don't move around if they're unsealed roads. I can see Big Bill in the front row here. You identify with that? So these guys were building a sealed road which allowed that freedom of movement. Now, at that time, there was no sort of active conflict happening, fortunately, but there were lots of guns. And one of the sort of weirdest bits was that each of us got assigned what's called a guardian angel, and this is highly classified, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but basically we're all assigned a man in his young 20s whose job it was to stand between us and a bullet if one was fired at us. So that was my experience of that sort of thing. This is our creative director, Brad Phillips. He's the bald man sitting over there. That's not his head, that's a helmet. I hadn't even intended to do that. Similar sort of context. So Brad, in a past life, was a documentary filmmaker. So this is during his time at World Vision, where he went to a lot of tough places to interview and document the lives of people who are less fortunate than us. This particular trip was in Uganda. Do you guys remember the Coney thing, the Coney documentary a little while back?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Crazy warlord who had a whole bunch of child soldiers. Yeah. So this is Pete Coney. And Brad's in the north of Uganda there, I believe, and needs to get to the south, and the only way was through one sealed road, the road thing again. But Brad tells the story of heading down that road, and at some point the child soldiers popped up and stopped the convoy and climbed on, and he says it probably felt like 20 minutes of a gun-wielding, shaking child, which might have only been a couple of minutes. But in the end, they got through that, and they lived to tell the story. And this is Peter Ciprianu, our content producer who's sitting over there, who's doing something exponentially scarier than both of the two things that we just did. He is a stand-up comedian. And stands in front of audiences and does gags and tries to get laughs, which I reckon is much harder than either of the things that Brad or I did. Much scarier, for sure. But I got a laugh at that.
No, I didn't get it at Christmas party. I thought it might be.
I did ask him if he took corporate gigs, and I think he's probably open to the conversation. So that's our team, and it's a little bit of our experiences. Now, what is strategic storytelling? Like it says on the slide, stories are everywhere in business. And I challenge you, I think a lot of people think of storytelling in business as marketing. I would challenge you to think a little bit differently about the role of storytelling within business, because storytelling applies across all elements of business. Management, marketing, sales, operations, like you name it, and there's an element of storytelling involved in the communication within that part of the business. So, some examples. Rachel's not here today, I don't think, but a few months ago, Rachel gave us that extraordinary example of Volvo, who hijacked the Super Bowl. That's an extraordinary way of telling a story without actually doing anything. It's an incredible way of doing it. Our hot seat from a couple of months ago, was it Mark from Trade?
Mark Wilson from
Trade Services. Interestingly, all of the panellists in that particular hot seat gave a bit of advice, and attached to every one of those bits of advice was an element of communication that needed to happen. So, I'd like you to think in those kind of broad terms about communication and storytelling within your businesses. Does anyone have an example that immediately springs to mind of a communications challenge that you've faced recently, whether it be marketing or not? Anyone?
Internal and external.
Internal, external, whatever it is. If not, that's fine, I can give you one. We had a really interesting experience a couple of years back where, is anyone here working telecommunications? Oh yeah.
Not obvious, no.
I was just going to pull names. Okay, I'll do that anyway. We had an experience where a client came to us and said, we're really struggling to get to this one particular person who sits within a small team within the very senior management of a very large telecommunications company. We just don't know how to get to them. So we got our heads together and we worked out that within that telco, every day the internal communications team would assemble a digest of relevant media content and forward it to the senior management team. And so we worked out that if we came up with a story and pitched it to the right publication and got a run, then it should end up in their digest within that large telecommunications company. And that's exactly what happened. So we managed to tick that box, but I think that that's an example of thinking a little bit outside the square as to where communications and storytelling can solve problems for you within your business if you're willing to think a little bit more widely about it. Did that change? No. So we, throughout the years that we've been operating, have come up with our own kind of methodology for doing strategic storytelling. It's not the only way to do it, but it's the way that we do it. The single most important bit of that is to ask questions. Just ask lots and lots of questions. And I've heard lots of people within this room say, if you're the one doing the talking, then you're doing your job wrong. So that's absolutely what we live and die by. So we ask a lot of questions and we get to know our clients' businesses really intimately. And that's really part of the best bit about it. But anyone who's heard me do one of these presentations before will have heard me talk through the basic premises of what we do, so I won't labour on it. But just to recap it, ultimately what we're trying to do is define what the challenge is, and then find a way to amplify the key messages and drive engagement with whatever the challenge is. So to do that, you've got to understand what you're trying to achieve. So diagnosing objectives. The single most important bit is understanding audience. So who is it that we're trying to talk to and how are we going to get access to them? Then that leads to things like messaging. What do we want them to hear? More importantly, what do they want to hear from us? And then we start talking about tactics, which is the channels that we're going to send our messages down, ultimately. And then very late in the piece, we start talking about the content itself. So how are we going to convey the message creatively, compellingly, efficiently, all those sorts of things. And interested in your thoughts on this, but I listened to a podcast called Think Fast, Talk Smart, which is the exact opposite of what I just did. And at the end of each of the episodes, the host asks his guest what three key ingredients for a great communication recipe are. And this was a while back, it got me to thinking, and I know what mine are, but I think I would probably normally do a Menti on this, but I haven't set up Menti today. So can anyone fire some, like, you know, if you're cracking the eggs into your communication recipe, what are the principal ingredients that you need to put in? Anyone?
Authenticity.
Sorry, what are we? Go.
Authenticity.
That's my number one. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Asking questions.
Good. Within a piece of communication. Anyone else? Empathy. Brilliant. They're all.
How about the core purpose or the why?
Yeah. I think two more for me are simplicity. You know, it's really easy to get bogged down in complex ideas and complex communications. And the last one I think is really important is value. So how are you going to present value in your communication? What is in it for the consumer? So that's our framework in a nutshell. And I mean, obviously the last step is setting up KPIs, because if you don't set up what success looks like from the outset, then you won't know if you succeeded. So I thought I would share with you a few examples of how we've done this with some of our clients. I'm going to share some videos with you that we've made in recent times. Yeah, when you assure me to click that again, it's going to start.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Ethos 360 are a recruitment business, which might hit a bit close to home for some of the people in the room. They call themselves a next generation recruitment agency, which, in their own words, which we wrote for them, big enough to challenge the status quo, small enough to care, and as nimble as a mountain goat. So that's how they think about themselves. They challenged us to find a way to tell their story in a non-traditional way. You know, the corporate video is very traditional. How do we do this in a non-traditional way? So we pitched them a short film, and they said yes. So we made them a short film. To go through the framework, the objective was to convey how this business is willing to go the extra mile, hence it's called the extra mile, to place the right people in their clients' businesses. Target audiences were directors of small businesses, or CEO or HR leads in medium-sized businesses, or HR departments in larger businesses. Key messages, well, aside from the mountain goat thing, you know, we're young, we're bloody good at what we do, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. So this is the example, goes for about 2.5 minutes.
Look, we've been burnt by recruiters before. You're all the same.
Well, we're different.
What's different about you?
We're all about getting to know you, taking the time to understand what you really need, and then hunting down the right person for your business.
But everyone says that.
Do you want to see how far we're willing to go to find the right person? Hey Carla,
What?
just the person I've been looking for.
Who are you?
Look, don't worry about that. I'm looking for the perfect person for my client's business, and I think you're it.
No, I don't think so, thanks.
Look, hear me out. These guys are legit. I'd take the job myself if I wasn't so happy doing this.
What, stalking people?
Look, I like to call it corporate matchmaking. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Impressive. But what if it's not that easy?
I got you. Hey, Steve!
How do you know my name?
Don't worry about it. I'm looking for the perfect candidate for my client. It's a sales role with an awesome company. 100k plus, heaps of flexibility, and work from home if you want. Keen?
Yeah, okay.
Let's do this.
Well, you know, every recruiter says they'll go the extra mile.
But we really do. Success for us is working with the right clients to find the right talent. 90% of our placements have stayed in a role for over a year, and that's how we know we get things right.
But every recruiter says that.
Well, we're not messing around. Do you really want to know how far we'll go?
We obviously took him through a pretty lengthy process to land on that story. We used Peter's talents as a comedian to do the scripts. We did 5 different treatments, 5 different concepts of the script, and in the end they chose the one that was their idea, as they were always going to do. But all of the work, incidentally, in something like that happens before and after. Like the shoot itself is 2 days, great, but really all of the work is in the pre-production, weeks and weeks of pre-production, and then months and months of post-production to end up with 2.5 minutes of content. The next example is a client called To My Door, who actually come out of this very room through Mills Freight. So, To My Door are a new player in the last mile delivery industry, which basically means you place your online order, their client is the person, the retailer that you just bought from, they go pick up the freight and they deliver it to you. We've done a fairly extensive piece of work with these guys, but including sort of a full comm strategy and all those sorts of things, but I'm going to show you 2 videos that we've made for them. And the objective behind these is to introduce the brand to the market. Like, it is quite new, it's only been around for about a year. Target audiences are supply chain managers, senior business managers / owners, and to an extent the end receivers of these parcels as well. And the key messages here are pretty obvious. You know, we offer a better delivery experience than what's currently offered in the market. So I'll, first of all, this is what we would call their brand or their company profile video. You'll see it's a fairly straight back.
At To My Door, we offer a better delivery experience. We're quick, we're reliable, and we're professional. So To My Door is a national transport company, so national home delivery, e-commerce. We don't focus on anything else, but generally speaking, bulky home deliveries. Again, that does have some value. It is quite heavy or is quite challenging to deliver that the traditional transport companies don't want to be involved in. It's important for To My Door to come to the market as the transport industry's got, I'm not going to say stale, but again, there's no new competition in the market. And the information that we kept getting back was, we want something different, we want something unique, we want somebody who cares. So that's where To My Door came about. To My Door tries to add value in probably a little bit of a different and unique approach. We understand that it's humans dealing with humans, and we want to make sure that that is as smooth as possible. Feedback that we've received from end receivers is overall very positive. They get contacted multiple times through multiple different avenues, but ultimately they know that their freight is in safe hands, it gets there when they need it, and if they have any questions, they know they can reach out at any given time. Not a lot of transport companies have got customer service teams within the country, or even a customer service team in general. So having that interaction where somebody can call up, make a change, request a date, or just speak to somebody about, an expensive item that they've ordered for themselves or for a loved one, it's quite important. We've received some really great feedback from our customers. They really enjoy what we're trying to do and do it differently. It's a very hands-on human approach. We know our customers quite well. We do care. If we get it right, that customer is going to reorder, and it's a win for everybody at the end of the day. To any retailer that is looking to make a change, give us a call. We will offer you a better delivery experience. We're quick, we're reliable, and we're professional.
Well, well, well. What do we have here?
Looks like a classic case of handling mismanagement.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Looks like they treated it with no care at all. Looks like the actions of a rogue delivery driver.
My package! They've murdered it!
You really hate to see that.
At To My Door, we take pride in delivering your package to you with the utmost care, and we promise we won't cause a scene.
Is it any cricket fans in the house?
Cricket?
Cricket, yeah.
Yes.
Did anyone watch the Glenn Maxwell innings the other night or catch up with it? You know, those two pieces next to each other, it's like watching Glenn Maxwell bat with Pat Cummins. You know, Pat Cummins played the most boring innings of his life, 12 runs out of 217 or something like that, while Glenn Maxwell puts on the big show. And that's kind of the point here, is that you're kind of giving them a straight bat explanation with one hand and then getting a little bit creative with the other. So this last example that I'm going to share with you is it's a little bit heavy, so please be aware of that. This was made for Breast Cancer Network Australia, who are a national charity who each year host the Pink Lady football match towards the end of the season. Sorry?
The cricket match, yeah?
No, that's Glenn McGrath.
McGrath.
You're thinking of McGrath Foundation.
sorry,
Yeah. So
right.
Pink Lady cricket football match, Melbourne versus Bulldogs. There you go. At the end of last season, and it happens every year. Our engagement with them is actually a much bigger one than just this. But, this particular piece of content was designed to drive a particular segment of their audience to donate to their cause, obviously, during the football match. The audience was AFL match day viewers, so this was showed in the Channel 7 broadcast at halftime. And as a result, you can assume that the audience is going to be somewhat familiar with the content already, because they've sort of had it rammed down their throats for the whole broadcast. But this was really targeted at sharing some of the stories of the people involved in the AFL who have fallen victim or who are living with breast cancer. And the key messages were that, you know, breast cancer affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate. It can affect AFL players and their parents just as much as it can affect you or I. So we might get a pre-roll out of this, I don't know, Wendy, but let's see. But you can see there, like, how that has been used to convey
The stage
emotion.
is set for the 2023 Toyota AFL Grand Final with Collingwood and...
Sorry.
We didn't shoot that one.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, as to how they've utilised that quite, you know, deep personal storytelling to convey the message that they're after. So now we thought we'd put it into practice a little bit. So normally we would conduct a workshop of 90 minutes to get and extract all of this information, but I'm going to do this in about 3 or 4 minutes with Robert and Wendy if she chooses to participate.
Who would normally participate in the workshop? How would that, what would that
It could be depends on the size of the business that you're sort of talking to, but a business like yours, it would be you two. A larger business, it could be a group of people, say 3 or 4 of the sort of key people who participate in these sorts of things. With an organisation like Breast Cancer Network, it's about 35 people because there are a lot of cooks in those sorts of organisations. So it just depends on the business, really. But like I said before, we start with questions like, what are the key strategic objectives for BVP, say for the next 6 to 12 months?
Growth in membership, greater levels of collaboration, facilitating that collaboration through some ideas that Lindsay and I talked about, through strategic forums and things like that.
And what sort of communication objectives could we put against a strategic objective like that?
Well, I think everyone knows that I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I don't think it's any secret that I've got someone else helping me with that.
About that?
Yeah. So it becomes, you know, I do cop a fair bit of some mates around that. It's around awareness, brand awareness, and I sometimes wonder if the authenticity piece is probably missing a little bit.
Sure.
As it sits now.
And I think we probably know the answer, but who's your target audience?
Well, you're looking at this. It's business owners and professionals that provide advice, strategic advice into those business owners.
Mm-hmm. So normally at this point we would do some research, maybe some interviews, some desktop research, that sort of thing, to understand the pain points of those audience segments, but I've got you here. So if you think back to when you were considering joining BVP, what were some of the things that you wanted to know? What were your questions? What are the things that maybe got in the way of you signing up? Or even if you're going through that process right now?
We used a word cloud here, mate.
Should have, yeah. People don't want to pipe up today.
I think
it's not common for this room.
I think because he was without putting words in your mouth.
No, not putting this is
unique insofar as Rob and Wendy had run the big leaders model beforehand. So it was a relaunch of a new model where you had much more liberty, I guess, to structure the way you wanted. So there was questions were about how the new model is going to work. I mean, Rob got a lot of feedback from heaps of people about what worked and what didn't work under the old model. So how do you modify that to make it, I guess, more relevant to your target audience? So is that a...
Don't be afraid to step back into the past, because we're all still together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd spend a lot of time, and I know with a lot of participants and the experts around the restrictions of the leaders model, and there's only so much you can do, and then you parted ways. In the lead up to that, you knew the change was coming, so you leveraged the feedback that you had, and then had further sessions with people. Okay, what are the good parts about what worked before? How do we modify that? What add-ons can we put in there to make this even more valuable and more relevant?
So questions around the model and how it works.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I wanted to know who was going to be in the room.
From what perspective?
Not so much the size of the businesses, but who are the experts going to be? Having been a member previously, I didn't feel that some of the content was that relevant for my size business, so I was keen to understand who would I be mingling with and what value would they be able to deliver.
Yeah, cool. Anyone else? Yeah,
well, I suppose when I was sort of considering it, it's obviously what are the benefits for me as a business, like what value add am I going to get out of it? It's like, as you say, all the experts on the panel was fantastic, so that was a key driver for me. Also, am I going to fit in? Like, is my business suitable for this group? Like, is this, how will I get on well with other people? And stuff like that. So that's a big factor as well for me personally.
Cool. Anyone else? No? That's cool. Because that is enough to launch into the next section, which is while we have all of this this gear set up. We are going to now, in front of you all, which is no pressure for the people that we're about to put into a hot seat of sorts. Does anyone want to volunteer? I'm going to ask you some questions, which is going to go into what amounts to a testimonial, which will be put on probably the BVP website / social media. Anyone want to volunteer? It's always the case. Andrew Bath, in the words of the great late Bob Barker, come on down. So Brad and Peter are going to get involved now. While we're doing this, I'll just pop a couple of notes up on the screen there about things that you might look out for while we're doing this. Andrew, take a seat. Try not to roll the chair back too far. That's why the little tape's on the floor. That's right. Exactly right.
Didn't realise the lights were going to go off and there's going to be a spotlight. Do the spotlight now.
No.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh, what's your question? Name tag on or off? What do you prefer, boss man?
Well, it's up to you, Andrew. Do you want the name tag on or off, mate?
Take it on.
Take it off.
Take it on.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Cool. So, the boys right now are going to be reframing and checking audio and the lighting and focus. But my request to you, I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you can do your best to restate the question in your answer, that would be really helpful. And I will start by asking you to introduce yourself. The whole time, if you could just talk to me, essentially.
Yep.
Forget that there are 3 cameras pointing at your face.
There's one right there, there's about 40 people
And
over
all
there.
those people over there. Yeah.
Easy.
Just ignore all them and all those things. It's just you and me. We're just having a chat.
Obviously.
Yeah. How are you boys going? That's a big ask. It's a lot of effort.
Plus he's on Wendy's time frame. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've been told I should stretch out.
All right. Do you want longer answers?
You know, like 20, 30 second grabs would be good.
Okay.
Cool. Excellent. Try not to swivel if you can. I know it's going to be really difficult.
Taking notes of things to check.
But that's what we're going to need you to do. And if you swivel, I will make you retake it.
You've even got one of those boards you can go.
Oh yeah, no, that's part of
Take
the
36.
about to happen. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Actually, you count to 10 for me, please. I'll check the mics.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. All right, good to go.
Now I'm talking to nobody.
All right, so camera A roll 36.
Camera B rolling. Camera C.
And slide.
Very fancy. Cool.
You like doing that, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. I really only bought that for the theatre of it. We don't actually need it.
You'll be tired by 36.
We usually only have it once. We get a laugh and then we move on. So, Andrew, please introduce yourself. Name, title, with starting with my name.
So my name is Andrew Bath and my title is Director and working at Project Resource Partners.
Awesome. And why did you join BVP?
Initially joined BVP, going to go back in time, I joined Vic Leaders back in March 2020, so with regards to COVID. And from that came a real sense of community, and yes, there was a lot of you wanting ROI and you wanting to be able to grow your business and tap into different people's ideas, opinions, and I guess as a small business, someone who runs a small business, you're also looking for multiple people to touch base with because you're often, it can be quite lonely at the top of a small business. So, but then through COVID came that sense of community, and I guess that continued through, and I wanted to know that was going to continue into BVP.
And what were you hoping to achieve by joining?
Generating new business, but also from...
Stop you there. Remember to reset the question for me. So I'll ask it again. What were you hoping to achieve by joining?
So what I was hoping to achieve was increase in revenue and business, but also being able to tap into, as I said earlier, ideas from different people, from different businesses, and also having that support network around as well.
And what were some of your concerns or reservations before signing up?
BP probably around the...
Got to reset that question. It's all right, no pressure, they're not watching, it's fine.
So the primary reasons, questions for me or things that I was looking for were who else was going to be in the room, so who was going to come across, and what was the format going to be, because there were probably some things that didn't work in the old format, and how was Rob looking at changing those up. They were probably the main two.
And now that you've had that experience of coming along to BVP now for a few months, are you happy with how the model works?
I guess with the experience of the last 2 or 3 months, yeah, I think it's different. It's less set in stone, so that there's different things each month in terms of the format and how that works. There's different people coming into the room, and it's probably more, personally, I find it a little bit more interactive, and I'm getting more out of it. And I think the business is getting more out of it as well.
And what are some of the benefits that you derive from being a member of the organisation?
I guess that goes, the benefits that I've derived from being part of the organisation.
I'll get you to redo that.
I started. So the benefits that I've derived and the business has derived from being part of BVP, I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier in terms of it is lonely, you get more opinions, you can find different ways of working. It's also enabled us to collaborate with different partners as well. So we're doing our marketing through peer marketing, which is great for us, and it's allowed us to do that. And there's been other partnerships that we've been able to build through that. But for me, it always came back to that sense of community. There's always someone there if you're wanting to pick someone's brain, whether it's with regards to an accounting problem, or it might be with regards to a marketing problem or an HR issue. There's someone that you can go and talk to and pick their brains that can really help you in terms of growing and building your business.
Talk to me a little bit about that community vibe. How do you sort of feel that?
I think the community vibe comes from the fact it's about knowing people, it's about relationships, and it is about understanding different businesses' stories. It's not so much about selling, or you have to bring a person along, although Rob would like you to bring people along more often. But it's more about getting to know people and actually building a level of trust with the people that are in the room. So yes, you have the formal part of it, which is this, but you also have the drinks, nibbles upstairs, and the different things that get arranged as well. So I think that to me is the key bit. You build trust, relationships, you understand people's stories, so you know who you can go to get things done and build those relationships.
And why would you recommend to other business people to join BVP?
I'd recommend joining for other business people, particularly from a small, mid-sized business, is that ability to have what's almost the resource of a large company in a room, in terms of, as I said before, there's lots of different experts that are around that can help you with different parts of it, so you get that piece. So it's almost like, cooperative might not be quite the right word, but you have that piece to it, but you also get support in terms of being able to find people who are able to help you with regards to growing your business, whether that's someone to do, you want to set up a podcast, whether it's you want to do marketing, whether it's you want to talk to a sales expert, what can you do within the business. But for me, it always goes back to that sense of support and being able to know that you've got someone that you can talk to, whilst also being able to grow your business.
Anything else you'd like to add?
There's nothing else really like to add, other than I think for the right business, if you can get in the room and come in and have a chance to sit down and talk with Rob, Wendy, and whether it's other experts or other members, then I think you'll find that it will really add to your business and give you the support that you need to grow your business moving forward.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah. And cut.
Cutting. Everyone give Andrew a round of applause. Yeah, that's right. All right, I would like another volunteer. Would someone else like to have a go? Anyone? I'm going to dub you in. Anybody? Come on. Oh,
Go on, Peter.
oh, go on, Peter. Good.
Get on, Peter.
Everyone give Peter a clap. Come on down, Peter. You are pretty much just had to hit the room, aren't you?
No tag off.
I can be, yeah. Because I'm not sure if I'm the biggest.
Oh, I
Maybe.
didn't mean geographically.
Oh, okay.
Cool, right.
So just reframing.
Yep, excellent. So, like I just mentioned to Andrew, although I'm sure you are very familiar with this,
Yes.
if you could
I
just
can make the same mistakes.
just talk to me, try and direct your eye line to me, and try to remember to reset the question in your answers.
If you can please count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Excellent, Cam. Good job.
We went a long time.
Alright, roll camera
Rolling camera B. Rolling camera C.
A. Slate.
Cool. Now, same drill. If you could please start by introducing yourself. Name and title, starting with my name.
My name is Peter Sandor. My title is CEO. The company that I work for is called Fearless Brand Strategy.
Excellent. And why did you join the
Initially because maybe I'll try that. I joined BVP because it was a continuation of Vic Leaders. Vic Leaders for me was a really great network, and I tried quite a lot of networks, but the quality of the people in the room was much better than I'd experienced before. And so I got a lot of business out of Vic Leaders, and that continued by joining Brand Value Partners. Business Value Partners.
What were you hoping to achieve by joining?
I was hoping to achieve an opportunity to meet other people in business. Obviously, I was thinking about being able to gain more business, but it was really about having like-minded people to talk to and to discuss issues with. So really, it was just really to have a good sort of peer group, because when you're in a smaller business and you've got a team that maybe is, doing what they do, you don't often get good sounding boards. So you get a lot of that here.
What were some of your, if you think back, that was a while ago now, what were some of your concerns or reservations before you actually took the plunge and signed up?
The initial reservation is it worth the cost? Am I going to be able to get what I want out of this? The opportunity that got put forward was that I could become an industry expert, and that I had a clear space in which to operate in that, and also the opportunity to talk to the group, speak in front of the group, present and challenge. So I think that was the answer to the question. I can't remember the question.
Yeah, I think that'll do the job. What's your if you keep in mind those reservations that you just expressed, what how has your experience been? Have your concerns been allayed?
I certainly have.
I'll ask you to rephrase
Yeah, my concerns have been allayed because what has happened throughout the process is I've met people who have helped me to make different decisions. I've also worked quite closely with Rob and Wendy, and we've found different things within the organisation or within the network that have been really useful. I've just kept getting business. You know, I've met people who have kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, I think this client might be interested in you. I've had people who have come to me and said, I'd really like to work with you to give it a bit of a go. So I think on that side of it, it's more than paid for itself. I never imagined that it would. And I know that it doesn't always work that way for everybody, but I've been fortunate on that side of things.
Excellent. So why would you recommend to another business person in your situation that they should try?
I would recommend business value partners to all sorts of people who are in this type of business, in a small business or a medium-sized business, who need to be able to be exposed to the right types of peers, if you like. And so I regularly talk to smaller business people, and when they mention networking, I always say, come along, you know, come along as my guest, and just because their initial thing is, oh, how much do I have to pay? And I find that sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't, but most of the time they have a great experience, and they're excited about what is being presented. They're excited about the opportunity to speak to different people, different experts at the end of the day when we go upstairs and have a drink.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think for any business, it's important that you have a network and that you utilise that network. And I think if you think it's not just about getting business, it's also about giving business. And it's really important that you refer as well as if you receive business.
Excellent. Everyone thank Peter. Alright, I need one more to make this cut together nicely.
Make it a woman.
I agree. I agree entirely.
Well deserved.
Yeah, well done. Come on, Father. You boys do your thing. Sure you know this all. What's that? Right. This is not. You've heard me say this twice already now, so just try to talk directly to me and restate the questions in your answers as much as you can. And I will start by asking you to introduce yourself once the boys have phoned up.
You can please count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
Camera A rolling.
Camera B rolling. Camera C rolling.
Alright, excellent.
Here we go. Take 36. Cool. All right. So, if you could please start by telling us your name and your title at your business, starting with my name.
My name is Kylie Harker. I am the founder and director at Squirrel Business Solutions.
Excellent. And why did you join BVP?
I joined BVP to continue to network, actually. I was a member of Vic Leaders when it very first started, and then I had quite an extensive break. Again, I think it was post-COVID. I was just looking to get back out and do face-to-face networking, and I'd had a good experience at Vic Leaders previously, and I was interested in learning what the new version of that was going to be with Rob.
And what were you hoping to achieve by joining?
I was hoping to achieve, as I said, the face-to-face networking and probably just expanding my community a little bit more. I have a bit of a superpower at networking, connecting with people, so I was keen to meet some new faces, I guess, and also just start to have some time out of the business again to connect with new people, learn new things, and hear other ideas, I guess, from the experts and from the community.
And what were some of your concerns or reservations when you were sort of first considering joining? If we don't worry too much about the transition between.
Yeah, sure. Some of my concerns were that the room would be full of men in suits. I was quite keen to not have a being talked at kind of experience. I wanted the experience to be interactive. I wanted there to be an element of social interaction with it, so the drinks and the networking are great for that. And I wanted the experts that were presenting to be speaking to businesses that are my size. So I'm definitely in a small business with 10 staff. So some of the previous experts were perhaps talking to businesses that were much larger than mine, and their services weren't as relevant.
Is the room full of men in suits?
The room is not full of men in suits anymore, which is awesome. There's definitely lots of girls here, and I don't know, it just feels more inclusive, I would say.
Excellent. And would you say that your concerns that you thought about, before you joined were allayed? Has it turned out well for you?
Yeah, the experience of rejoining has turned out really well for me. We've definitely gotten new business from being a part of the community, which did happen originally also, but again, I just feel like it was a lot easier this time around because the trust and the ease of building those relationships and perhaps having I'm not sure how to put it, like-minded people within the group has just really helped build relationships, I think, quickly.
And what would you recommend to somebody else that they should join?
I would recommend that you join because it's not a room full of suits. And I do think that the experts that we have now, a lot of the content is really relevant, and people are very willing to give advice and get in touch outside of the monthly meetings and help build those relationships outside of just that monthly kind of catch up.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Good job, got those.
Cool. Everyone, thank Kyle. All right. Open my light back on. Yeah. So the purpose of doing that is to start to build some social proof. Out of that, we will build a range of content pieces. We'll probably end up with at least 4, probably more. Pete, how many do you reckon we can get out of that?
Probably maybe like 12 or something.
There you go. So, a solid level of content moving forward which you can roll out, over months. We will obviously post-produce each one of those individually. We can cross-cut across themes. We can do all sorts of different iterations of each one of those interviews that we just did. As a result, 20 or 30 minutes spent just now in front of camera can result in weeks, if not months, of content that can be put out, which is, in this way, supposed to generate that social proof. Because ultimately, if you're shopping around for a product or a service, the first thing you're going to do is look for evidence that it's good. So, the elephant in the room, I'm always asked this question: what does my ROI look like on something like this? Similar to at the start of the conversation, when I suggested that thinking more widely about the role that storytelling can play in your organisation, perhaps it's also a good idea to think a little bit more widely about how you term ROI. So there are lots of different measures. I mean, there are the standard metrics. If you look at the Ethos 360 video that we played you earlier, that's had 1,000 odd views on YouTube. The day that it launched, they got 50 direct messages, and obviously there's the social media analytics over the 6-week campaign that we ran around it. To my door example, the impacts of that are still unfolding because it's only gone live about 2 weeks ago. But they also got an immediate reaction, both on social media as well as direct messages and phone calls. You know, they got phone calls from people who'd seen their content. And obviously, you know, the BCNA example is part of a much wider campaign around that major event, but you can, you know, I looked up the viewership figures on a standard AFL game. That one might have been more, it might have been less, but it should be the case that about 500,000 sets of eyeballs saw that piece of content on that day. I gave you the example earlier of the business that deals with the large telcos. You know, they saw an immediate response from the key people that they needed to get in front of. So that generated all sorts of opportunities for them directly with that particular business, but also their phones went a bit ballistic on the day that that piece went live in that particular media outlet. The other thing that I would encourage you to think about, and this is something that I learned in this room, is that your brand is actually an asset. Brand value is an asset. So not only from a reputation and a recognition perspective, but also from a financial one. So I'm sure that there are some people present right now who can explain to you much better than I can that at the time of sale or acquisition of your business, you can actually put a dollar figure on the value of your brand. So investing in it over a long period of time can result in a financial windfall at the time that you decide to get rid of it. And the other example that I mentioned earlier was Mark Wilson from TSA. Imagine if Mark, he had an issue around safety and about communicating safety within his organisation, increasing their safety awareness, reducing the number of incidents that were occurring. Imagine if Mark invested in a really clever internal strategic communications campaign that aimed to resolve that safety issue for him. I would consider that ROI for Mark might look like a reduction in safety-related incidents. It might look like, reduced downtime as a result of safety incidents, no fines, nobody dying at work. I'd consider that to be pretty good ROI. So, that's a wrap. Thank you very much to everybody for having us. I hope that you take away from this that thinking about storytelling and the role that it can play in the business, you can think quite widely and quite creatively, and there, I think, are a lot of problems that can be solved through excellent strategic storytelling.